check, check.
1, 2, 1, 2.
All right. What's going on, people?
What's up, y'all?
Welcome to the second episode of the Music Maniacs podcast with Sight After Dark.
Yep.
We're Sight After Dark out of Brooklyn, New York. Your new favorite band. I'm Dan Berg.
I'm Sifa Graffiti.
So today we're talking about probably the most, if not one of the most legendary artists to ever come out of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I would say probably the most.
Yeah, I definitely would. I can't think of another one that's more legendary than that.
And if you can't tell who we're talking about, he's on my shirt. We're talking about Biggie.
Woohoo!
The best to ever do it.
Yeah.
Don't at me, bro.
Don't at me.
Yeah, don't at either of us.
Don't at me.
But, okay, before we even really get into it, I want to tell you something that happened to me on the train.
What?
Okay, yo, listen to this. New York is back. Okay, yo.
This is not a positive one.
No. So listen to this. So I'm on the train. This is like 8 in the morning. I'm going to work. I get on the 5 train at Union Square. It's the express to Grand Central. So it's like one big stop. There's a lot of, so I get in the car, the train car, and I see 2 people like riding in between the cars. And, like that's already bad. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking like usually the other times I've seen that, it's either like somebody going out there to like do some drugs, or it's like a homeless person going to the bathroom or something. So I'm like, all right, I got to keep my eyes on this. So I'm in the train and I'm like kind of just watching, like see what's going on with that. And it's a guy and a girl.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden this dude, he just starts hitting this girl.
Whoa.
Like I'm in the train and I can hear the noise.
Whoa.
It was like, and I heard it in the train through the door. And I'm like, what the fuck? And everyone in the train is like looking at him. And I could see through the window, everyone on the other train, the other car is all looking at him.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to fucking kill this girl. Because, like, they're in between the cars. And he's hitting her. And she's, like, falling. And I'm like, yo, she falls off. She's dead.
Yeah.
So we're all just looking at, like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? But nobody wanted to go out there and put themselves in the situation where you can be thrown off onto the fucking tracks.
I would have had to piss everybody off. I would have pulled the emergency brake on that one.
So this is what ended up happening. Is everybody on both sides of the train is like, okay, which way are they going to come back into the train? So they came back into my side of the train. And all these other motherfuckers, as soon as he walks in, they all look away. And I was just I couldn't help myself. I just was looking at him like, and he saw me and he was just like, I swear to God, this is what he said. He was like, hey, it's New York, we crazy, bro. And I was just like, what? And he was like, you don't live here, do you? And I was like, you think you could just hit people wherever and no one's going to fucking notice you, dude? And to paint the picture, so it was 2 people, right? It was a guy and a girl, well-dressed black dude, polo, slacks, dress shoes, and like this crackhead-looking white bitch. And I'm just like, yo, like, you can't just hit people and expect not to get like fucking looks in public. Like, what are you talking about, bro? He's like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, I didn't say you should give a fuck, but you can't act like no one's gonna fucking notice you're hitting people on the fucking train. And so the girl was there the whole time, not saying anything, as I'm going back and forth with this guy. And then she chimes in with this. Hey, it's not my fault my husband likes to get his dick stuck on a train.
Oh, my God.
And I was just like...
Oh, my God.
And I just left. I was like, I can't do anything. Like if that's how you are about it, then I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I'm just like, yo, I feel like this dude was literally like providing her with fucking crack.
Yeah.
For, things from her.
Yeah.
And the thing that's crazy is like, the city is nowhere as dangerous as it used to be.
Right.
And this is where Biggie comes in, right? Because we're talking about the context of like Biggie at this point. This was like a weird way to get to it. But now we're talking about crack. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. So we got to talk about like the crack epidemic and shit to like set the stage.
For Big?
Yeah, because like all of his stories and shit, what he's talking about, like where he's like as he's coming up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just like, I guess drugs in the city in general, because even like Diddy, I mean, his dad was killed by Frank Lucas.
Yeah, his dad was a big time drug dealer, but Diddy Diddy pretty much grew up broke kind of. Like he had stuff, but he didn't have anything.
That's something that it's interesting that we're doing this because, you know, I mean, you were growing up in Brooklyn around this time. I was fucking either not around or in Florida. So I'm really curious to hear a lot of your perspective on these things because you were actually like around.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was always like, I always loved Biggie, but like from afar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I'm curious, like, were you like, could you just like see Biggie around Brooklyn? Was he just like around and shit?
That was back in the days, and I feel like that kind of stopped around 94, 95 when the push for getting money got really, really big, right? So our favorite rappers, instead of just walking around with the you know, the hottest clothes and stuff like that, it became like huge now. Like they were investing money, like they themselves were big investments from huge labels, and so we weren't seeing them in the neighborhoods anymore. But yes, you could see Biggie in the neighborhood. All the rappers that came before him that he looked up to, like the Big Daddy Kanes, like all the people that he knew, Busta Rhymes, Special Ed, all those people, you could see them in the neighborhood. And nobody was going to bother them or anything like that because one, it's New York. We don't fan out like LA does. You know what I'm saying? Because we got somewhere to go. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Everybody does. Even the kids, they got somewhere to go. So they're going to stop. They're going to see you. They're going to say, oh, my God. But then they got to go on their way. So, yes, of course. You could see him. I mean, and all the rappers that he used to shout out on those albums, like I said, like in Warning, you know, he talks about certain rappers, and these are all Brooklyn rappers. He'll say something like putting hickeys on your chest like Lil Sean. That was an actual rapper here in Brooklyn and stuff like that. Your style is played out like Kwame and those fucking polka dots. That was an actual rapper here. Kwame is a producer now, so he's not really played out. But when he was out, all he wore was like polka dots and stuff like that. And he actually became one of Biggie's producers. I believe he was in the studio with Big when Big was freestyling and said that. So that's cool. The type of freestyler that Big used to be. So absolutely you could see them in the hood, and though I miss those days, actually I do. Yeah.
So another thing, okay, so we're talking about like crack and shit. So all of his earlier songs talk about growing up fucking like selling crack and shit. And like for context, it's like, you know, there was the war on drugs or whatever in the 80s, but like I feel like the whole crack thing was specifically against black people, right?
Yeah, the crack epidemic,
Yeah, because
definitely was.
Obviously, you need cocaine to make crack.
Yes.
And cocaine's fucking expensive.
And crack is cheap.
And the way that it kind of ended up was like all the rich white people would be doing cocaine, and then all like the poor people on the street would be doing fucking crack.
Yeah.
And you would think as a government, if you wanted to get people to stop doing crack, then you would go to the source, which is the cocaine, and you would make those penalties heavy.
Yeah.
But that's not what they fucking did, is it?
No.
They were like, okay, we're going to crack down on the crack.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's just a fucking very thinly veiled way of saying we're trying to arrest all these motherfuckers on the street that we can.
Yeah, because the dope boys were making tons of money, right? They were making millions of dollars per week. Yeah. You know what I mean? So they went from the whole Scarface boom down in Miami to the crack epidemic up here. You know what I'm saying? And it was crazy. And for the record, like, I mean, it's so funny, the little juxtaposition between hip hop and actual real life. Like in real life, in my family, in my house, in the neighborhood, Biggie's a fucking loser. Okay, he's a stay away from that motherfucker. Like,
because he was selling drugs.
Yeah, because you know what I'm saying. Because first of all, you're hanging out on the corner, like that. Totally frowned upon in most middle class families in Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying. You owned a home like and stuff like that. Those kids that hung out in the corner. We used to like. I wasn't allowed to be around those kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, in a way, it's like the crack epidemic happened around me sonically, like in music and in the movies. Like, because to us, like growing up was like, how the fuck could you smoke crack? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the way it makes you look, it's just like, who wants to turn into that? Like, like, so it's just like, how the F could you do this to yourself? Like, you know what I'm saying? Who would want to take one hit? Like, you know what I mean? So that was crazy. And then, of course, drug dealers, like, no. Like, if my mom smelled marijuana, she'd be like, they're all doped up. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, so that's the funny thing with Big. And then Big too, which is interesting, his mom will say, like, he wasn't raised like that.
That's what I was going to get to. Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Yeah, so it's just like, that's another thing too. And it's true, like, she's Caribbean, you know, she's a Jamaican lady. And so, you know, I'm not trying to insult any Black Americans and stuff like that, but Caribbean have hardcore values. Like, you know what I'm saying? They come and they work their ass off to get a home, so not live in apartments and stuff like that. So that's what Caribbean do. We just come here, we hit the floor running, and we just work. Well,
that's
so
like the immigrant mentality, right?
Yes.
Like, okay, this is our shot. We're here. We got to fucking do it.
Yes. Yeah. But the way you can fall through the cracks and fall on the wayside is if your home is broken. And I feel like that's the issue. If there's no dad in the house to like watch you or to like, you know, make you accountable for certain things, then somebody like Big will fall through the wayside. And women, by nature, are more agreeable. So you can like be a son getting one over on your mom's easier than like, you know, your pops is part of you and he's the man that you're probably going to turn into. So he'll probably be like,
right,
don't pull that shit with me. Like, you know what I mean? So that's how, you know, her being at work all the time and stuff like that, that's how he just became a drug dealer. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's why I wanted to say, like, get into the whole context of like this whole thing and then how this relates into the music.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I wanted to say, you kind of beat me to it, is because I always heard it's like, yeah, like he didn't really have it as bad growing up as he said, and like blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to hear like what you knew of that or thought of that from, you know, actually being around. And then it's funny how, I guess we should probably get into the music at some point.
Yeah.
So it's funny because, you know, I always heard people say that, and I was always a huge Biggie fan in Florida. Like, I was known as being like, in my group of friends, like I was the kid that just fucking loved Biggie. Okay. Like there's shit. You remember on like back in the day, like MySpace in Facebook.
Yeah.
You would do like, tell me a fact about me or whatever. Like my status, and I'll give you a fact. Like there was some of those you can still look at my Facebook now. I fucking like a fact or whatever. They'd be like, fun fact about you. You love Biggie more than anyone I know. And I have that in writing still. I think it's funny. It actually came up like a memory on my timeline like this week. And I was like, oh, that's crazy that we're doing Biggie episode this week, and that happens. Yay. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so people say like, okay, yeah, like Biggie didn't really have it as bad as he tried to make it seem, and like blah 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 blah, and like, oh, he's fake because he's always talking about this and that. But like the thing is, it's like when we're talking about the first album, Ready to Die. That album is like a fucking movie. Like it's literally like, I didn't watch CSI and Law and Order and shit. I would listen to that and I would see it in my head. And it's like, there is, you know, probably like a little bit of truth that it's grounded in, but it's a character. Right. He's portraying something. Yes. You know, it's entertainment. Yeah. If he was really doing all this shit that he was saying, he wouldn't be in a studio laying down tracks. He'd be in fucking jail.
No, he wouldn't.
So I think that's a ridiculous argument that people try to say he wasn't real and shit. Like you've heard people say that.
Definitely. I've heard Tupac say that when he was alive. And that video for Ain't Nothing But a Gangsta Party, he totally makes fun of Biggie, and he said that really did happen. You know, like he walks up to Big and he threatens him like he's gonna shoot him, and Big is like, don't shoot me. I'm just a rapper, Pac. I'm just a rapper.
But this is the thing. It's like, it's similar to what we were talking about last week with Zeppelin, how they were just so good that you just can't deny it. Yeah. He was just so good. You just could not deny it.
You couldn't deny it. And he had Tupac shook. Like, he would make, like, those were friends, you know what I mean, here in New York. First of all, we considered Tupac a New York rapper for a long time until he ended up going to jail, and he came back very angry, and I feel like he was a little diagnosed, like probably bipolar and stuff. Probably had issues.
He got bailed out by Suge, right?
Yes, yeah, because he was in jail upstate New York too. Like, because the issue happened here in New York at this club called Nell's that Vin Diesel used to bounce at.
Oh,
yes.
Shout out to Vin. It's all about family.
And I think it's the same. I think Biggie has a video in Nell's. It might be to all the ladies in the place. It might be that one. If it's a black and white checkered floor, yeah. If
I think it is.
Yeah, that's Nell's. That's Nell's. So that's where Tupac's supposed rape happened. So Tupac and Biggie were friends, because I mean, even Tupac did the movie Juice here in New York. He was a New York character. We felt he was a New York rapper. That's how, because I think he was born in Harlem or something like that. But anyway, Biggie had Tupac shook, because he was like, ain't that my style that Biggie got right now? Ain't that my clothes that Biggie be wearing right now? Like, he was becoming undone. Okay, so you have to be really good to make, like, I mean, because Tupac's another legendary rapper, right? Yeah. To have somebody like that, like, shooketh.
Right. You know? So, because if Biggie was just some bum, it's like he's not gonna pay him any mind. Right. But you can't ignore what he was able to do. Yes. Like, he just, I don't even know. I just can't even describe it. Like, and it's funny because if you don't listen to rap music, it's people a lot of times like try to dismiss it, like, oh, it's just violent and blah blah blah, and people don't understand the fucking art and the poetry that goes into this.
Yeah.
And he's just the top level.
Yeah.
Like to this day, it's just like.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll be listening to Biggie songs. I've been listening to Biggie a lot the past like week or two to get ready for this, and he'll just drop some shit that it's like, it sounds so natural to him. And then you think about it later and you're like, did he just rhyme 9 times?
Yeah.
You'd be like, because he'll just come out of nowhere like, now I'm 13, smoking blunts, making cream.
Yeah.
On the drug scene, fuck a football team, risking ruptured spleens by the age of 15, hearing the coach scream, ain't my lifelong dream. And I'm just like, what? You know what I mean?
He definitely had a knack for it. I don't know if it was a cultural thing because, you know, people kind of say that hip hop was born in the Caribbean by default, right? Because you got Kool Herc who came up from Jamaica, and Biggie is Jamaican himself as well, second generation, but he is too. So it's probably just a natural thing for storytelling. For, you know, Jamaican music is great. Like not even just like the hip hop. A little sidebar of it, but just like reggae and all that stuff like that and everything. So Jamaican music is great, good storytelling music. So I can see why Biggie would pick up that knack for it. Yeah, and then he had just have kind of ways of saying things like saying like, and you still recouping, and you think the rhyme is over, and he's like stupid. Like, so like
yeah.
So funny. Like I really thought Big was a great artist and one of the best. Even then, and I can remember when nobody knew who he was, and like my older cousins and stuff would listen to underground radio. So that would be like NYU would have a radio station, and the kids that wanted to get into the music business or whatever at NYU, they used to let them run the radio station, but college radio would be on very late. So like you can only play the music they wanted to play. They could only play it very late, right? So they would play it anytime between midnight and like 4 a.m. So sometimes we would just like on weekends, we would just put on NYU, I think it's 89 something, I forgot exactly what it was, NYU radio, you just put it on and it's like your kids, so it's bedtime, so you go to sleep, right? So you go to sleep, but then you'd hear stuff like that would wake you up, and it would be like Party and Bull or something like that, and you'd be like, who is this guy? We didn't even know, like, you know. So it's like watching Big's rise was even better than experiencing the end product. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was like just watching it happen. There's a local show that's called Video Music Box, and this guy Ralph McDaniel's been running that show since like the 80s, and that's actually where the word shout out was born, like from him. Yeah, it was born right here in Brooklyn. Like now it's worldwide, which is crazy. And so like little shows like that, little clubs and stuff like that, and that back then Biggie was just Biggie Smalls, so it's just like, oh, we got Biggie Smalls here, so people finally got to see him, like, you know, and he kind of looked like what you expected him to look, because he sounds like heavy, right? So it sounds like a big black guy, right? So you expect to see him, and then he's like super charismatic, and he's so huge and stuff like that, and then he brings out Junior Mafia, right? So it's just like the whole Big experience was great because it wasn't just him, it was the characters around him, it was how Diddy was acting at the time too, like, you know, just like a character.
Well, this is a perfect time to get into Diddy, because we can't really tell the story of Biggie without Diddy.
Yeah.
So do you know how they met?
Somebody.
Diddy's from Harlem, right?
Diddy is from Harlem. Diddy started out, he was like dressing artists. So he was always the music guy. Even before Biggie, we knew who Diddy was. He started out as a backup dancer.
I didn't know that.
And it was like Uptown MCA Records. That was like huge. Everybody that people liked was on that label. Mary J was on that label. Jodeci was on that label. Guy was on that label. So it's a lot of like New York local artists. So Diddy joined Uptown MCA, said he would work for free. And Andre Harrell let him, so he was in charge of all the young new acts. Yeah. So he dressed everybody. Well, everybody's style is pretty much Diddy and his girlfriend Misa. So we kind of watched Diddy come up too. That back then he was just Puff Daddy, like, you know, just so he met Biggie through the grapevine. It's like somebody saying, okay, well, there's this Brooklyn rapper, he's mad hard, like, you gotta check him out. And Biggie came to Harlem Diddy came to Harlem to see him, and at that point Diddy was like, I was looking to sign like some type of like light-skinned curly-haired guy, because like on Uptown MCA all the dudes, whether light-skinned, dark-skinned, or whatever, had a pretty boy look to them.
Right.
Nobody looked like Big.
Right.
Exactly. So Diddy was just like, but the rhymes were so good that he knew that was millions of dollars right there.
See, that's the thing. That's what we were saying before. It's just like he was so good that you couldn't deny it. Like he didn't have a look. Like if you're like, oh, I want to sign someone to be a star, you're not going to be like, I'm going to go find the fucking biggest, blackest dude on the fucking corner selling drugs.
Right.
But he was just so good. It's like you cannot deny how talented he was.
Yeah.
And I mean, clearly the world agreed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and what's best is like his nonchalant attitude. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can imagine Diddy's like all hype and excited, and he's always been like that. Like Diddy's not faking. Like from whence we knew him, that was his personality. Like when he was like a backup dancer and shit. So he's like, we gonna make it, we gonna be stars, you're gonna be huge and this that. And Biggie's like, yeah, whatever, man. It's all right. I believe it when I see it, man. It's okay.
Right. This is why their relationship is so important for this story, because it's a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
It's not parasitic. It's not either one of them using the other for something.
Yeah.
They both needed each other to get where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because it was Uptown, right? Uptown Records was where he was working.
Yeah.
So he would try to bring Big to get signed by them, right?
Yes.
And then Andre
Right.
was like, Diddy's trying to do too much.
Yes.
And he fucking let him go. He gave him the boot, right?
Uh-huh.
So then now Big's like, yeah, so all that shit you were saying before, it doesn't look like it's working out like that.
Uh-huh.
You know, like when you're saying, like, I'll believe it when I see it. It's like, yeah, you promised me all these things. I'm going to get you signed, blah, 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 blah. And then you just got fired.
Yep.
So what does that say for me?
Right.
Like, I got to start selling drugs again, bro. Like, I got a daughter, right? I got to make money somehow still.
Right.
So then Diddy being the business guy, this is the thing, like, Biggie is obviously the music guy. He just had so much talent that, again, you just couldn't deny it.
Yeah.
And Diddy was more the business guy.
Yeah.
So Biggie was not as concerned with, like, starting a label and, like, doing all this shit. Like, he was worried about his music and, like, his things that he's doing. So that Diddy's like, all right, I got fired, but I got the fucking drive and the ambition. We're going to start our own label. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We're a bunch of bad fucking boys. You know what we're going to call it?
What?
Bad Boy Records.
Come out and play.
So, yeah. So, I mean, Diddy started it up and with Biggie basically being the flagship artist. So they really brought each other up, which I think is such a cool part of the story, because you see, you know, you watch all these, like, behind the musics and shit. There's always, like, jealousy and, like, somebody trying to bring the other down, or, like, the record label just trying to use them for this and that. Mm-hmm. But them two, like, they brought it up together.
Oh, definitely. And even back then, like, if you could say that Diddy was in love with Biggie, like, I would say it. Like, he loved that guy. Like, that was his bread and butter. And I think the rise of Big was huge, too, because the West was taking a lot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Dre and the whole NWA, they swooped in and they were taking a lot. Like, we loved Snoop Dogg over here back in those days and stuff like that. There was no riff except for Tupac starting that bullshit. Like, you know, no, it's his fault. I blame him. But, like, New York was just so happy to finally get a New York rapper that we weren't, like, caping for. That was actually a world-class rapper, because you know what I mean, we had Mobb Deep pretty much like slam dunked a little bit for us, because New York was kind of like, our rhymes were becoming okay, and like Dre and them were making millions, okay, and they were going, like, they were crossing borders, they were doing all types of things, and they had some people over here trying to sound like them. So like New York was like, okay, wait, like, we're not them.
What about Wu-Tang?
But you see, that was huge too. Wu-Tang in like early 91, that was a whole crew, and I feel like,
right, it's not, you couldn't just be like, that's the guy.
Yeah, because
so many people.
Wu-Tang itself was hard, but I could not pick a Wu-Tang artist and say that they're one of the best in the world. Nah, I can't do that. Like, I really love Raekwon's flow and stuff like that. Like, he's dope. Meth is really dope. Like, and in terms of record sales, yeah, they'll be like the best in the world.
And who was the one feature on Big's first album?
Method Man.
I just had to say that. Right. Shout out to Method Man.
Exactly, because he was like, I mean, he was huge at that point too. But like, we were so happy for like one captain, where it's just like, you couldn't.
This is the guy.
Yeah, you couldn't even dispute. Like, no one could dispute it, because I feel like Method Man could have gone head to head with a LA rapper. Like, I'm not gonna diss some of these rappers. Like DJ Quick was a really good rapper. We had like, you know, I forgot who the other guy is. MC Ren was a good rapper. We had some good rappers that were coming out of LA. They could kind of go head to head with some of our rappers, but like, with the exception of Prodigy from Mobb Deep, when Biggie came out like as a solo, like by himself, I think that was the other thing too. Like, he was his own artist and he didn't need a group. Like, it wasn't a back and forth to bring him up to a certain level. And I think that's the difference with like Wu-Tang, who were like a great group, and also Mobb Deep too, who was another group that we were like, oh, New York is still holding it down. When Big came out, it was like, you can't say nothing about New York.
Yeah, because there was nobody that was gonna rap better than him.
Nobody.
At all. Any country, any state, anywhere.
Exactly.
In the fucking world.
Exactly.
And again, that's the thing. It's just like sometimes, like, there's a level of talent that, at least in America, that if you're that fucking good, you can use that to make a better life for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he was just so good.
Yeah.
That nobody could say shit to him.
Yeah.
And his style was just so cool. I'm trying to keep it like also about the music. We just kept talking about how awesome he is as a person, but like, I mean, obviously the music is what made him that. And it's just like, the thing that was so cool about his style is he was able to do such complicated things, and he was able to play with words in such a way without writing anything down, by the way. Nothing was written. Nothing. I still don't understand how you can do that, because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I got a few bars in my head or whatever. But he would have whole songs all in his head that were all amazing.
Well, I see it as like practice. I see it as a thing. Like, if I said, oh, Dan, play me a freestyle, you could pick that up and just play me something really wicked. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that's part of you since you were like a preteen. And like, if somebody was to say, Sifa, dance me something great, like, I will get up and I would like dance you like the most wickedest freestyle, because I've got all that technique with him.
But again, that's because we've been doing this shit for so long and we put the work into it.
Yeah, him too, though.
That's what I'm saying. Him too.
Yeah.
But like, a lot of other people just didn't do that, and they couldn't do that.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
True. Yes.
Like, he clearly that he lived it.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That's really the dope part about him. Him just being like his own artist, like his own single self. And then he was a big black guy, but he wasn't scary. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like people wanted to hug Big, and people wanted to, like, his music was funny. You know what I mean? A lot of it was funny. Like, my uncle, to talk about like not liking like rappers and stuff like that. My uncle, every time he saw like some young kid with some jewelry or something like that, he'd be walking by me, he'd be walking with me, he'd be like, look at these chain snatchers out here. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the first thing he would say. Or if he saw a young girl with like big earrings and all this stuff like that, he'd be like, teen pregnancy right there. Like, you know what I mean? He would just say he's super conservative. Damn. So my uncle, exactly. So super conservative, my uncle, like totally Ivy Leaguer and all this stuff like that. And he came up to us and was like, so, you know, talking about Biggie. He liked Biggie. He was like laughing about how he's like, soon as he buy that wine, I just creep up from behind. Like, he thought that was funny.
So I don't know if you would know, but what in his mind was different between Biggie and all these other people?
I would say it's the charisma. Because, like I was going to say, Biggie doesn't come off as angry.
Right.
That's the other thing. Like, he comes off as
smooth.
Yes. Life is life, and it's kind of funny. Life is kind of funny to him. Like, you know what I mean? I like that. He gave off like that whole, it's funny because he's harmless in a way. It's like he's harmless. Kind of like, Jackie Gleason, right? In The Honeymooners, right? I remember when the first time I said something to you about The Honeymooners, you're like, oh, is that show with that guy who always threatens to beat his wife? And like, I remember I was taken aback because it's like Ralph Cramden would not hurt a fly. Like, he would not. Like, even like when he used to threaten Alice, she'd be like,
straight to the moon.
Yeah, she'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? She never took him seriously and was never afraid of him. So Big was like that kind of character, just this big, jovial, charismatic kind of guy. But unlike Ralph Cramden, Big actually did become successful from all his schemes and stuff like that. But yeah, so I think that's what it was. Like, Big wasn't angry. And I think that's the difference between the Wu and Mobb Deep and Big as well, because
that's interesting.
Yeah, Big became more global like that because he wasn't that angry. And you see how Method Man is able to go, because Method Man's not that angry either. But you know, he may be angry inside. We know they suffered a lot and stuff going through shit, but like the music comes out as like, this is my piece, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to bring happiness to you guys, like, you know. So yeah, I think that's that could be the difference there.
That's really interesting. I never thought about that. And something else I gotta say about Biggie, I mean, this isn't anything that he did necessarily, but his voice just sounds cool.
Yeah.
It just, like some people, you know, everyone has a certain tone, like the way their voice sounds, and some voices just sound better on a track than others.
Yeah.
And his voice just sounded great on the track.
Yes.
Like he really was the full package.
Yeah.
Because he could write all the things better than anybody else. He had the charisma that you're talking about. He had the style. And do you think Diddy had to do with that, or you think that was really Biggie? He was just like, he got money and now he's gonna buy these suits and shit. Like, did he want to do that the whole time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they just wanted to look like the old gangsters. It's just funny. Like his first, the way he regularly looked coming up was just, you know, baggy jeans, big shirt and stuff. The style with the Coogee and the glasses. Yeah, I think. No, I think that had a lot to do with Big and more than with Diddy. Like, if you look at the locks, the way Diddy had them dressed with the shiny suits and mace and stuff like that, that wasn't really Biggie's style. I think Biggie was into, like, the old gangstership of New York, and he wanted to look like the wise guys out in the West and stuff with the big, huge glasses and the sweater, like, you know what I mean? And it's like a sweater where it's like, that's not a hangout sweater. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you probably got some slacks on with the sweater, you know, and some dress shoes. Like, you know, so like, I think he wanted to just emulate those guys.
So he was trying to be more like old timey, like classic gangster.
Yes.
Versus like street gangster.
I think so too. Especially like you can see it in the second album, right? His whole outfit for the second album. Yeah. So I think that was the deal.
Though that's a good starting point to, I guess, go through like how his musical progression was. Because like, so with like rap music, like you don't start with an album. No, really. Like you start with features,
mixtape,
your mixtape, blah 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 blah. So by the time you get an album, you're already pretty established.
Yeah.
And the album is how you really cement yourself.
Yeah.
So Biggie's first album, Ready to Die, is just a classic.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely classic. Every song just goes super hard, and it's just so good. Like, so this is something I used to do when I was younger. I would print out lyrics for certain songs where I'm like, oh my God, how are they doing this? Uh-huh. And I would get like a bunch of different colored highlighters, and I would highlight where the rhymes are. So it'd be like, okay, this rhyme rhymes with this one, so these will both be blue, but in between here, there's a red one. So then I would go through the whole song, and by the time I would be done with a Biggie song, it would be like just a tapestry of colors. You know, you know what I mean? Like there was only a few artists that you could really do that with. And I did that with him, and it was just so impressive. Just like seeing how it's all written out. And that was just his style, because it goes again with the charisma. It's like he was able to do all this shit, but it never seemed like a big deal for him.
Yeah.
It just like happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It never seemed like he was trying too hard.
Right.
Like he's just telling a story, and it just so happens that he just rhymed 13 times in a row. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. But it was just so natural. And like I was saying before, it's like that first album, it was like watching a crime film. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you can't take it all literally. You just can't. I mean, the album ends with him killing himself.
Yeah.
He didn't actually kill himself. Exactly. I don't know if you fucking do that. But it's like, you can't take it at face value. You have to understand that this is entertainment, and he's portraying a certain thing.
Right. Yeah. And when I say those wise guys out in the West, I don't mean the west of the country. I mean the west of the borough. Shout out to Bensonhurst and Bay Ridge and all those spots.
Yeah. And then the thing that's so crazy, he only put out one album while he was alive, which is so crazy, because we still, I mean, how long has it been since he died?
A very, very long time. Like that was like 97. That was a very long time ago. I remember calling my cousin. He was like, I don't believe you. He was like, I'm hanging up right now, and I'm going to turn on MTV and wait till they say it. I was like,
you're like, all right, it'll take you about 2 seconds.
All right. Like, yeah, turn it on. But yeah, I just really feel like that that is true. Like he just it just came out of him. Like it was nothing for him. And like he did so much then too though, because he did features, he did songs with Michael Jackson, he did songs with so many people that he just all he needed was that one album. Because back then, that's what you did. You did features, you did mixtapes, you did that. It's like by the time you did your second album, we heard so many songs from you. Like, you know what I mean? That's just what it was. And then he wrote for his own artists. Like, you can see the difference, like, in Lil' Kim's rhymes from when he died to when she started writing her own stuff. Like, I mean, that was all him all over the rhyme. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people, even Salt and Pepper used to get their rhymes wrote for them, which is something I found out in the movie. Like, you know, so...
Easy.
Yeah, I was like, exactly. A lot of people were getting stuff written for them. So, yeah, you saw how much he influenced not just us, the listeners, but his camp too. Like, you know, they needed him. Like, you know, Junior Mafia, he wrote for C's and wrote for Kim and stuff like that and other people. So, I mean, it was just great.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
So the first album came out. That's where, like, that was when I feel like he became really, like, known maybe outside of just the rap community. I feel like is when, like, the first album, then he's on MTV, Big Poppa's on MTV, you know what I mean? Like, all that shit. Like, he's just more places. And that's when he was, like, big.
Yeah.
Like, well, he was big the whole time.
Yeah.
But now he was, like, big in the industry.
Right.
Of just, like, he had a lot of clout.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, which, by the way, he grew up, like, a neighborhood over from where we're at. I just think that's cool.
That's cool. And it's really interesting that they kind of needed, you know, some of us were just like, what? Diddy has no talent. Like, some of us were so annoyed because everything, like, when you listen to all those original songs on Biggie's album, a lot of them got remixed, right?
Yeah.
So, and they got remixed into beats that were already out already,
right.
Like songs that people knew, like Juicy, just in case you guys don't know, you know what I'm saying? And even like Big Poppa, that's the Isley Brothers and stuff like that. So I feel like that's what propelled Big 2 on top of, it was like a whole marketing package. And the cherry on top was the remix beat to all those old classic soul songs and party songs from our parents' generation a way back, like songs that we used to hear as tiny babies coming up and dance around to, and now he remixed them and put them on that. So of course when you hear the theme for Isley Brothers, Between the Sheets, that doo 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 doo, of course you're gonna get into that. You're gonna be like, and then if you rhyme really good on it and you say funny crazy stuff, and then you make your videos like slight movies where it's just like people even pause for a while to get their feature shot, it's just it's hilarious. Like, so yeah, we ate it up. Like, you know,
that's what I'm saying. He really made it feel like you were watching like a movie. Like when you were listening to him or watching him, it felt like a production. In a way. Which I don't know. I always thought it was cool. And like, I mean, I was born in '94, so he was really young. I was really young when he died. And I was in Florida. So it's like I was so far removed from it that like my whole like conscious life, he had always been dead. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he had always just been like a Brooklyn dude. Yeah. And I always loved it. I just always loved it. And now I live in Brooklyn.
And now you live in Brooklyn. Well, I mean, yeah. So shout out to his legacy. Like, I mean, it's still a cool legacy. Man, oh man, it's crazy, like how to think about like how young you were like when he actually died and like how many years ago it was, because like, you know what I'm saying, you're like a full grown human being, like, you know what I mean now. And,
well, like, I'm older now than he was when he died.
Yeah,
he
like
was only 24,
right? To think about like how young you are, right? Just a couple years after 24, you're like thinking like, shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a young person. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unbelievable. And you know, the city has a way of doing that to you, making you feel like you're older than you are, because it's just like there's so many distractions and there's so much outside influence when you're living in the city. A lot of people live in apartments. So just your neighbor upstairs, you can experience a whole life from listening to your neighbor upstairs. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know, you stick your head out the window and there's some kid across the way smoking a joint outside of his like parents' back. You know what I mean? It's just like little things, like just like what you saw on the train, like all those things. Kids see that, like, you know what I mean? And then by the time they're like 11, 12, now they got to go to junior high by themselves. Right. Down that street. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Because their mom got to go to work. Like, you know what I mean? Who else is going to watch them and stuff like that? So it's like, I know he felt like a big man, by the time he was 23, I'm pretty sure. But I'm sure if he lived past that to look back at 23, he would realize like how young he was and how much more there was to do and stuff. But
yeah,
it's crazy.
That's the thing that's so sad is that he could have had so much more music. So he put out the one album while he was alive, and then the Junior Mafia album was after that, right?
Yeah.
So, and then he still kept doing features and stuff. But I'm trying to think of like how to bring in Life After Death into this. Okay. Which first, it wasn't originally going to be called Life After Death, right?
I doubt it. I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. I thought he had a running theme, Ready to Die. Like I thought he had like a whole theme. I think it was supposed to be. I don't know. I'm leaning towards like 75% yes. It was supposed to be named that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So his second album was called Life After Death, and it was released like a month after he died, something like that. So that's already really sad, but kind of cool at the same time. He's like, even like after he's dead, he's like, you're still going to listen to me.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
All right. But that album was dope. And it's like, it really is like what you were saying before. I feel like the first album was more of like the street gangster kind of thing. And the second album was more of the high class, like I got money now. I'm wearing the fucking suits. I got a cane. Even though that was because he got in a car accident.
Yes.
I know a lot of people think that there was like video, when he was older, he would like walk around with the cane, and he thought that was kind of like that he was doing that for the show, like it was kind of like a pimp kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, he actually got in a car accident and like fucked his leg up or something.
He really did. And I actually, honestly, as a kid, thought Biggie was gonna die from like a health related issue because he was getting heavier. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, oh my gosh, and those guys, they eat. Like Diddy has said he can eat a hamburger, a milkshake, and fries every single day.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So, you know what I'm saying? Those guys like to eat and stuff. And Biggie was getting so big. And in the interviews, he was breathing so heavy while he was talking. Yeah. So I remember thinking he was going to die like that. Like he was just going to have a heart attack and die. And I remember reading an article with Lil' Kim talking about it and her saying that she's trying to get him to lose weight. Like he don't have to be skinny, but she just wants him to lose some weight. Like,
right. For health reasons.
Yeah. So I remember always, I don't know, like when he started getting that big, I just remember thinking that we're not going to, I thought he was going to die then. I thought that that's why he was going to die. I remember looking at him saying to myself, Biggie's not going to live long. Like, I swear, I didn't think he was going to get shot, but
Yeah, he was just really like a star that you knew was shining so bright that it was going to burn out in some way.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's creepy because I look at Kurt Cobain's child picture and I look at it and I say, that looks like a kid that dies young. That looks like somebody who dies young. I was like, I don't know why, I can't shake it. I don't know why, but there's a picture of him floating around the internet. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. He's got the bowl haircut, and he's just smiling. And I'm like, that looks like a dead child. I don't know why. Like, but with Big, it says I felt like that too. Don't worry, Dan. I see a lot of life in you. I don't.
That's crazy, but no, I know what you're saying. I think I know the picture that you're talking about. And there's just some people. It's just like, well, it's hard for me to even say about that too, because I mean, Kurt died like 2 months before I was born. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm thinking about these people, as far as I'm concerned, they've always been dead.
Yeah.
They're like Hendrix to me.
Oh, that's strange. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've just always been dead legends.
Yeah.
Like, my whole life. Like, Jim Morrison, Biggie, Hendrix. Like, to me, it's like all the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, they were here for a very short amount of time, and they were just so good that, to this day, people are still talking about them.
Yeah.
In obviously glowing terms.
Yeah, yeah. I remember thinking, like, how are those people even real? Like a Bob Marley, whose death was closer to my year of birth. But that, I feel like that was the person. Like, when I was coming up, it was like his music was like, it was almost like he had just died within the, they give you like kind of like a 10-year span in a way. So, like, his music was really big. And I just remember feeling like, how could he have been real in a way? Like, because he's gone. Like, how did people know him? Like, is it like a butterfly Mandela kind of thing? I wasn't thinking that when I was young, but but that vibe.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's how I've always felt about Biggie, because I always knew him as dead and the greatest of all time. So it's like he was always such a legend to me that it was so crazy when I moved here, and then I'd just be walking around and I'll see murals of him everywhere, and I'll just be like, oh shit, like these were like literally the streets that he walked. Like he was here.
Yeah.
Like he was a real person.
Yeah.
He wasn't just some legend that I've heard about.
It's insane.
You know what I mean?
It's insane. What's even more insane is that he went to Westinghouse with Jay-Z and Busta Rhymes, which I'm trying to figure out because Jay-Z's so much older than them.
Is he?
I feel like Jay-Z's Biggie's young compared to Jay-Z, but they were in school together. So I don't know if Jay-Z was just hanging out there, just going there to sell drugs or something. I don't know. But I feel like Jay-Z is a lot. I'm going to Google this. Jay-Z's older than Big. Big wouldn't have been... damn, he would have been approaching 50 now. I feel like Big would have been approaching 50 now. Or maybe 50 something.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z is older.
I don't know. I don't really keep up with Jay too much.
Yeah, I think Busta Rhymes and Big around the same age. Like I could see, like I remember when Busta Rhymes first came out too, he was in a whole group and everything like that. Like, yeah. And I could see that both of their young faces, they were young around the same time. I feel like Jay-Z's a little bit older, but these guys used to freestyle at the lunch table with each other, which is like even crazier. And if you want to think about, Busta Rhymes is pretty live. He's like a live version of Biggie. So if you want to feel kind of like the feeling that Biggie kind of gives off, you can just watch Busta Rhymes the way people react to him. Because it's like people think of Busta as not just a rapper, but kind of like their friend in a way.
Okay, interesting.
You know, they'd be like, what's up, Bust? Like they really see him as somebody that they could kind of hug. As you know, where like Jay-Z's not really like that. Like, don't get too close to him. Like, don't go over there. Like, you know what I mean?
You'll get some security
strong arm. Like, exactly. But with like Busta, you know, it's like a warmer, and I don't know if it's because they're both Caribbean. I don't know. But Busta has a warmer energy, and so did Big. So if you want to feel a little bit close to the vibe that Big used to give off, I would say Busta would probably give off a little of that.
You see the video from like a week or two ago where somebody, where Jay-Z was coming out of his office or something, and there was like people trying to get him to sign autographs, and somebody gave him a baseball. Did you see that?
No.
Somebody had, they had the albums or posters or whatever. He was signing everything, and then somebody put up a baseball, and he just went like, "I don't play baseball," and then he got in the car.
Oh my god!
I was like, yo. That shit was so funny to me.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I feel like Busta would have signed the baseball.
Yes. Yeah. Busta would have been like, "Oh, what's up, homie? Come on." Like, you know what I mean? That's the type of energy. And then Big would have been like, "What's up, little man?" Yeah. Biggie would have said that in a more calm voice. Busta's like, "Wow," but Biggie would have been like, "What's up, little man? Yeah, I can sign that for you."
Okay.
Yeah. That they're around the same, like they got warmer souls and stuff like that. So yeah. But it's just crazy to know that all those people were like hanging out together and like with each other and stuff like that, and they're still here to this day. It's like legends too, which is insane because honestly, the generation right before, it's like you kind of burned out as a rapper. Like you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like people got sick of seeing you in a way. It's like that's just a New York thing, I think, because it's very Cosmo here. So it's just like you're here today and you're gone tomorrow. Like you're not rocking those same shoes from last year, are you? Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes, of course we are. But, if we got to go out, we're not. Like, so I feel like that's what it was like. We got some huge rappers like Kool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane, Marley Marl, like all those huge guys that are huge guys now looked up to. It's like, after a certain while, like 10 years or something like that, people don't want to hear from you anymore. But like these guys that came out in like the late 80s to early 90s, it's like even now me as like that was like a kid watching them, like I'm so shocked to see them still here because that was not the culture right before them.
Interesting. Well, you think that just has to do with like just hip hop getting bigger as far as like in media and just in general?
I believe
being like an underground thing, because like if you're underground, there's only so many people that are gonna know about you.
Yeah.
So many people can get sick of you also.
Yeah, I think it may have something to do with that. Hip hop being bigger, these guys getting better contracts and better money and like branching out into movies and their own lines and stuff like that. So I think the hood on a whole is just so proud of them that we're just gonna continue like helping to propel them and like the system. It's just crazy though to see it, like to be like, whoa, like Queen Latifah's on the Equalizer. Like, you know what I mean? She was just dancing in the park the other day. Like, you know what I mean? It's just crazy to see it. It's a really great thing though.
Oh yeah, yo, you just reminded me of something. So one time I was wearing this shirt, this exact shirt. We were at one time we went to the Music Inn for an open mic, and so for y'all that don't know New York City, so there's this place called the Music Inn we used to do an open mic at. It's in it's called the Village, right on West 4th Street, and there's these really famous basketball courts right on West 4th Street.
6th Ave.
And I was talking to the guy that ran the Music Inn. He's like this old hippie dude. You know who you are. Shout out. There's no way you're watching this, but we love you. He's like 70 something, like old gray hair, beard, the whole thing. And one day I come up and I'm wearing this shirt. And you're just like, oh, I like that shirt. And I was like, yeah? He was like, yeah, let me tell you a story. One time, you know, I was at the store and I saw there was these people doing like a photo shoot on the basketball court. So like, I just went over to say like, what's up and like see what's going on. And the guy that was doing the photo shirt was that guy on your shirt. And I was like, what? For real? He's like, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And then that's another thing. I'm like, he was really just a real person walking around. Which is so crazy to me. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. You definitely wouldn't have seen him on the train after a certain point of time, but you would have seen him at the same parties you went to. Like, cause like, again, like you were kind of saying, hip hop was smaller back then. It was just starting to swell. Yeah. So we all went to the same spots. Like, Big was trying to get into Nels, so was like somebody like me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was saving my weekend money. Somebody like me would save my weekend money, my week money, and I'm trying to get into Nels for the weekend too, the Friday night, the Thursday night, or whatever. So it's like hip hop was very, very small back then, and it got huge because I mean, like you think about Run DMC, they're like literally the kings of rap, right? But by the time like 89. 90, nobody want to hear nothing from Run DMC. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you got to give those guys the ultimate respect. Like, you know what I mean? Their brother ran Def Jam. Like, that's the hip hop label. Like, you know what I mean? Anything second to that is Bad Boy. Like, you know, known all over the world. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, but don't nobody want to hear a Run DMC record. Like, you know, and it's cause they're from that generation where it's like, nah, you burned out.
So
like,
true.
You came and you couldn't go to jail and go away for a year and come back and still have a successful career.
Nah, you could
not do it. Nope. Shout out to Keith Murray because that happened to him.
Okay, so speaking about jail and like drama and shit. So chronologically, Biggie puts out Ready to Die in '94. When did the shit go down with him and Tupac at the studio? Was that also 94? Was that after?
I want to say that was like 95, 90. I remember it being like winter time, like seeing Tupac coming out of Supreme Court. Like, I want to say 95 going into 96.
Right.
Definitely.
So after Big put out the first album, he was already a huge star. Okay, so you guys at home, if you're watching a podcast on Big, you probably already know this, but we had to kind of explain things assuming that people haven't known about this.
Right.
So what happened was, and this is how I understand it to happen. So Biggie was at a studio somewhere in Manhattan, I think. It was in Manhattan somewhere. And Tupac was in town, and he was just like, yo, Tupac, come through to the fucking studio. We're laying down some tracks. Come hang out, whatever. And so Tupac was on the way, or he had just gotten there. And he got robbed and fucking shot when he was already on trial for like rape or something. Anyway, so he got robbed and fucking shot on the way to see Biggie.
Talk about breaking point.
But yeah, anyway. For real. So in his head, he's like, yo, Biggie set me the fuck up. I thought we were boys. I thought we were friends, and he's trying to get me killed. As far as I understand it, it's really unfortunate timing. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't see why Biggie would have had that happen. Right?
That's how I felt as like a young listener, as an impressionable child, as a small person. Why would Biggie want to shoot you? And who are you? Not like who are you, but who are you that somebody, like you're both coming up in the game. You're both two totally different rappers. At least that's how I felt at that point. Cause we loved Tupac over here. Like we loved him, you know, and then like, why would he shoot you? But I will say, that is a Brooklyn thing. That is I don't know. I mean, I only can speak for my borough. That is a Brooklyn thing. Girls would do that to a guy they liked.
Set him up?
Come over to my house, come visit me and stuff like that, especially if you went someplace like in the projects. That dude would come out naked, practically. Like, you know what I'm saying? All the dope clothes that he decided to wear to go see that girl, the jewelry, anything he had on him. So it is a known thing to do that to somebody in Brooklyn.
Can I tell you a story real quick?
Yeah.
I thought that was going to happen to me once.
Oh, no.
Because I matched with like this girl on Tinder. And like we were talking, I don't know. I don't remember exactly how it came up. She was like, "You want to come over?" And I was like, "Oh, that was kind of fast." You know what I'm saying? I was like, "Whoa, I didn't expect to go like that." I was like, "What's your address?" And she like gave me the address. It was like right on the border of like East New York and fucking, I don't know, whatever neighborhood is right there.
Brownsville is right before East.
Yeah, it was like right over there, and I'm just like, I went. I probably shouldn't have went. Nothing bad happened.
Right.
I ended up we hung out. It was fine. But like on my way, I was just like, yo, am I about to get fucking robbed?
Yeah.
And I was thinking that, and like, that's never happened to me. I know if that happened to other people.
Yeah, people put it in songs.
Yeah, in my head, like the whole time I was like, I might be just setting myself up and putting myself in a terrible situation because I want to talk to this girl.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, Mobb Deep had a song like that. That actually started a beef with Jay-Z because Mobb Deep said they were going to go to Marcy Projects to see some girl, and she was going to say, they were like, why she calling me?
Yeah.
She ain't called me in years, and Jay-Z's like, what? What you say about Marcy? Yeah. So I'm not saying Big did that. I'm not saying that Tupac wasn't absolutely crazy, but I remember when I was young thinking he's fucking crazy for saying this shit. But I was a small child, right? So you never know. You never know what happened.
And it's what you were saying. I mean, he was already about to go to jail.
Yeah.
And then all that happens. Like you said, like talking about a breaking point. It's like, yo, people can only take so much.
Yeah.
It's like, that might have been the point. Because when you look, I mean, now we're talking about Tupac, but if you look at like the history of Tupac and his life, I mean, that's the start of the downfall.
Yeah.
I mean, then he went to jail. He got convicted. He went to jail. Suge Knight bailed him out. Mm-hmm. Suge Knight was the CEO of Death Row, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the big West Coast label. So then he bailed him out and basically was putting all this shit in his ear, like, all these East Coast motherfuckers, they hate you, blah, 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 right? And you're just like, he's just starting all this drama. And then this is actually really funny, though, with the award show. What award show was that? You know which one?
Soul Train Awards?
What? I don't remember what it was.
I think it's Soul Train Awards.
So, for y'all that don't know, you can look this up on YouTube. This is hilarious. So, Diddy, again, like we said before, it was a very symbiotic relationship. Like, they both brought each other up. But Biggie was always putting Diddy in the videos, or Diddy was putting himself in the videos, however you want to say it, whatever. And so he'd be like dancing in the videos, and he'd always be ad-libbing on the tracks like, yeah, yeah. Even though it's not his track, but you know what I mean? But he had to... But he's a business guy. He knew that was, in addition to being good music, that was also marketing for him, for the brand, for the label. And it made sense, and it obviously worked out very well for them. He was
a Spike Lee of recording music, right? You got to throw yourself, Spike Lee, Quentin Tarantino, you just throw yourself in there.
Throw yourself in there a little bit, you know what I mean? So I can't hate on it because it did work, and obviously Bad Boy just blew up.
We liked it.
Yeah,
he was annoying in a cool way. I'm going to say something else about him, but go ahead.
Yeah, hold that thought.
Yeah.
So then we get to these awards, whatever we'll call it, the Soul Train Awards. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we'll go with that.
Yeah.
And then Suge Knight, the dude who was running all the West Coast shit. Source Awards.
I think it's that.
Source Awards. Suge Knight, who's running all the West Coast shit, he goes up to accept an award, and he's just throwing mad shade at Diddy while he's there.
Of course.
And he's just like, if you don't want your producer all up in the videos, dancing, come to Death Row. So this is when like the East versus West shit is like really starting to come up. And unfortunately, I really think it is just Tupac fucking losing it.
Listen, I know some of y'all out there really love Tupac, but like in my mind, I have already put him in a category as one of the dumbest motherfuckers alive because like I'm so pissed at that. I remember being so pissed, and I'm like this guy too. I'm like, this guy is not gonna live long. I'm like, why is he being so stupid? But I honestly, like now that I'm older, I feel like that was a mental health issue. I really feel like his brain split. Like, like it's just enough is enough. And I know his mom did a lot of drugs, so that doesn't help with early child development either. So he probably was already teetering.
Yeah.
And like the Joker says, all you need is a little
push.
That's all you need.
Well, I mean, we could do another episode on Tupac, obviously. I don't want to go on Tupac too much.
Yeah, but that whole East Coast, West Coast situation, like I feel like he started that for no reason, because even when Suge had said that about Diddy, we were laughing at that because we were annoyed. Like, it was annoying,
funny.
but it's funny. It's funny
yeah.
and annoying. And I remember hearing a remix song with the Lox, and Diddy starts it out, and he's just like, you ever say to yourself, when are these guys going to stop? When is he going to stop making all? I was like, I have said it to myself, like, when is Diddy gonna stop hanging out on all his artist songs like that? And he actually says in the song, never. And
never.
That made me laugh, and that made me like him even more,
because he was never trying to act
yes.
like he wasn't doing that. Like,
yes.
It was clear what he was doing.
Yeah.
Nobody really gives a fuck, because again, he built all this shit.
Yeah.
It's not like he was in somebody else's label just like throwing himself in. We're like, no, this is my shit. Like, me and Big made this together. Yeah. All these other artists are here. You're putting out music because of me on my label.
Yeah.
Come on, let me just give a little on the song. Like, is that really a big deal?
And I'd like to say for the record, New York won the war, because Diddy's the last man standing.
Diddy is the last man standing.
The last man standing. He's so much the last man standing that Dr. Dre's legacy is 50 Cent.
I wouldn't say that exactly.
It's Eminem by default as 50 Cent. That's Dr. Dre's last big hurrah was Eminem.
We're going to act like The Chronic isn't a top album.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying after, because The Chronic came out right around Big's album. Like, that's 92. Like, you know what I'm saying? Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style and stuff like that. But after, in all the aftermath, right? Dre's a billionaire, and
Speaking
that's great.
Of aftermath. That was good how you did that.
In all of that, right? When you think about whose artists could put out a track right now that you could listen to right now, you would say Diddy. Diddy would bring somebody out right now that could put out a track and you would listen to them. Dre's just doing beats one. Like, he's not putting out like artists and stuff like that. And they all kind of wanted away, but I feel like Diddy is the
Kendrick.
last. Oh, Dre's got Kendrick.
Well, that's a
Is
whole.
Kendrick
We don't have to
still
go
here?
off into all that. I don't know.
Either.
Where the fuck is Kendrick? We don't have to go into. We're going into way too many directions right now. But
Big didn't even want this war. He's just a rapper.
Okay. So then I do want to say this about Tupac versus Biggie. So again, what you're saying about this all kind of comes around now, because you were saying like Biggie has more of like a fun like attitude, and the big difference I always heard listening to Biggie and listening to Tupac is that Biggie was about a good time. He's trying to do this, he's trying to do that, he's trying to go to the club, blah blah blah. But Tupac was always way deeper in his like his lyrical content, and he's talking about fucking like bigger issues in like society and shit, and it clearly is weighing on his head. And then you have that, and then you have like didn't his like aunt like she like killed a cop, and then like she was on the run forever and shit like that. So he's grown, like his whole family situation was even more wild than Biggie's really growing up
and stuff like that.
And he was like moving around as a kid too. He didn't like to have like as much of a stable like I'm from Bed-Stuy.
Right. Yeah, no. He was in Harlem, he was in Maryland, he was in LA. Like that's why the East Coast loved him so much, because we were like he was here like you know, for a while. Like, I mean, it's just also strange. But I'm saying that raised on his brain. He was like Big in the beginning. I feel like Big pissed him off. Like, Big had him like shook in a way, like with that whole thing where it's just like, ain't that my style that Biggie got? Ain't that me that used to wear the Versace shirts and all this stuff like that? And it's like right before that, the Tupac right before that was a lot of fun. Was extremely charismatic. Used to be like laughing and making all funny jokes, and you would see him too. I wouldn't see him in the streets, but if Video Music Box came on and stuff like that, he would be just like at regular parties, just like anybody else.
This is what I'm saying. So all of these factors and things in Tupac's head culminate in that shooting. Yeah. Because there was already things growing up, and then he was started blah, blah, blah. Like, Biggie was coming up. They didn't have any issues for the most part. And then, you know, he had a trial. He got shot. He thought it was Biggie. So now it's like the switch turned in his head from Biggie is my friend to like Biggie's my fucking worst enemy.
He trying to take me out. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and then he they respectively basically both coasts rallied around them, right? Because Biggie was the supreme talent of the East and Tupac was the supreme talent of the West.
Yeah.
So they became the figureheads of this kind of East versus West thing.
Well, no, it was Tupac's fault. It was his fault because he literally said, yo, fuck the East Coast. And we were like, what? Like, wait, aren't you from here? Like, we were so confused. Like, over Big?
Right.
Like, there's so many people, and that's why Nas accosted him and was like, yo. You can't be talking about us like
That's
that.
what I'm saying is that I agree with you when you say it's clearly like a mental break.
Yeah.
I really think that when he got shot at that studio in Manhattan, I think that was the fucking last straw in his head.
Yeah, because Biggie wasn't calling himself king of the East Coast or anything like that. He was just a rapper. He was there for Brooklyn. That was it. Like, I remember him winning his awards and being like, we did it, Brooklyn. It wasn't even like a New York thing.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, that honestly was, I remember that. Like, Tupac being like, yo, fuck the whole, we were like,
whoa.
We couldn't believe it. Like, we couldn't believe, because we didn't want to divide our rappers. Like, even when Snoop Dogg got that award and he gets up there and nobody really wants to clap for him at the Sports Awards. It's like, after all that, we're just tired. After all this Biggie Tupac shit, we're just so tired. And then, like, Snoop Dogg's like, the East Coast don't got no love for Snoop Dogg.
Oh yeah,
he was like, the East Coast, and we were like, all right, Snoop, we're sorry, we do love you, we do, like we did, like we didn't want to be in the midst of that shit. And look at all the innocent bystanders. That's why I feel like I call Tupac dumb, because it's like, you know, there are gonna be so many knuckleheads that are just gonna like cape for you.
Yeah,
you know, that's a lot of lives. That's a lot of people in jail, probably to this day.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's where I wanted to go with it. It's because, like, that's clearly where Tupac kind of snapped. And then it became like the whole East versus West thing pretty much because of him. Mm-hmm. And then that's the thing that basically ended up killing both of them.
Yes.
And that's really what makes it so fucking sad.
Yes.
Because these were supremely talented individuals that could have been making music to this day for many years past this day if it wasn't for that.
Right.
Because, and the thing that's even crazier about it is that Tupac got killed first. Mm-hmm. And they still don't know who it was.
Right.
And so I feel like, I don't know, like obviously I wasn't around, but it's like once Tupac died, it's like I kind of feel like, it's like when you think about it in retrospect, it's like once they took out Tupac, it's like Biggie, like somebody was going to come for him.
It was, yeah, and he knew he was going to die. He felt like that, like somebody was coming after him. I don't know who told him to go to California, but...
That was dumb.
And then to actually get up on the award show and be like, what up, Cali? Like, they're like, you're just asking for shit.
And he even had a song about Cali where he straight up said, I don't have any problem with anybody unless you're talking shit about me. He's like, I don't have any problem with Cali. They got great weather. They got great women, blah, blah, blah. Whatever he said. I don't remember all the whole verse now. But he had a whole song going back to Cali. He's like, I love Cali. I just don't like when people talk shit about me.
Right.
That's really it.
Yeah.
And he didn't start it.
No.
He didn't start it.
That's a shame. He really should have stayed here. But he could have gotten taken out over here, too. So you never know, because gang culture is worldwide now, especially that Crip blood dump shit.
I mean, you never know how shit is going to go out. But in this reality where we live, that's how it went down. And it's just a shame. It's just a fucking shame.
It is. It is.
But, you know, things happen. And obviously... You know, I think about it sometimes. It's like I'm happy that he was even able to be there at all, so that we had this music at all. Because there were so many things that could have happened where he just was never even in that position, or he just never met Diddy, and just like that, none of this happened.
Right.
But we live in a world where that did happen, and even though we only have one or two Biggie albums, we could have lived in a world where there was zero.
Yeah.
So at least we have that. So you know, that's good, but. At the end of the day, the whole thing is really just sad.
Absolutely, it's a shame. But yeah. So like after that, I mean, well, now it's just murals and streets. I'm still shocked at that. He got a street named after him. It's like, whoa. And that just goes to show the impact of hip hop. Like there's a Christopher Wallace Way in Bed-Stuy, and that just goes to show, because like. I'm serious. The generation before them, like the Run DMCs, the Big Daddy Kanes, the Marley Marl, stuff like that, those people don't have no streets named after them. And it's like, It's insane, because those guys were seen as like kings, like, you know what I mean, in like Brooklyn and stuff. But hip hop just got so big that basically a gangster rapper has a street named after him.
Yeah.
Like people feel like he did so like Brooklyn had to have felt, right? The borough president's office had to have felt, not just him, because there's other rappers from that whole fold. Like Foxy Brown just got keys to the city. Like they must
embrace this.
What?
That they said we need to embrace this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That they brought so much commerce to Brooklyn and brought such a revolution of like people that want to live here and get stuff out of here and visit here and stuff like that, that they just had to give these people some props.
And I think that's totally true because, I mean, like growing up in Florida, I always thought that Brooklyn was a cool fucking place because I used to listen to all this music of all these people from Brooklyn. They would be talking about Brooklyn. And I was like, oh, I want to see what Brooklyn's about one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that, I'm not saying consciously I moved here just because of Biggie, but right. I think, you know, subconsciously I'm like, it has a thing in my head. It's like, oh, like Brooklyn is kind of a place to be.
It's kind of a place to be, yeah.
You know?
And for you, I don't even really consider you a transplant. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like your grandparents and your dad's from like New York. Like, I just feel like that's just like, it was like kind of like a quid pro quo. Like, it was just like supposed to happen in a way you coming to New York. Because like, that's pretty much like your roots.
Yeah. This is also something I think about all the time. This is like, well, not all the time, but I think it's kind of funny. I feel like if you're Jewish, then Israel is like your ancestral homeland. Uh-huh. And if there was a second ancestral homeland, it would be New York City. Like 100%. Like there's more Jews in New York City than anywhere else that's not Israel.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. That's cool. That's
so I always thought that. Like, if you're Jewish in America, you can 100% trace your family back to New York City.
Somehow, I swear, like, there'll be Jewish people from, like, California down south, and they all have New York accents.
Yeah.
I'm like, how? Like,
yeah. Like... So it's like, yo, my grandparents grew up in the Bronx. They got the heaviest fucking accent. They got that, like, when you think of the stereotype of a New York accent, that's how they talk. You know what I mean? But anyway, we're getting off on a whole fucking thing here. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, is there anything else we should really say about Biggie? I mean, I think he's the GOAT. If anyone ever asked me who do you think is the greatest rapper of all time, I'll say Biggie, no question, no hesitation. And his legacy can be seen not only in how big hip hop has become commercially, but also in like the rappers to follow. Because he was saying such crazy shit sometime. Like I remember whatever the line, "Step into your wake with your blood on my shirt." And I was like, what? I was like, yo, that is so fucked up. And like people, he would be saying that kind of crazy shit that like, I think if you look at it now, you can clearly see how that influenced like Eminem.
Yeah.
And because then he took it to just like, I'm going to say the most wild shit I could possibly think of.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be gangster necessarily. It's just wild.
Yeah.
And I feel like if Biggie wasn't saying such wild shit and people in that era weren't saying it, then I don't think Eminem would have had the same style that he had.
I don't think so either.
And then obviously he was a huge deal. He became commercially successful. He influenced so many other people. So just like tracing the line of like current hip hop music, like you can see how big of a deal Biggie is.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah. Like, you know, I like Big because he's honest in his music and he's not letting his emotions carry him away in his music. And that's how I measure him out with Tupac. Like, you're not going to conflict me as the artist that I really like. And you're not going to like confuse me. Like, you're not going to make a song called Dear Mama or like Keep Your Head Up and then in the same vein just be like, fuck you, ho. Like, you know what I mean? I don't like you if you do shit like that. Yeah, that's why it feels like a mental thing. And you know what I mean? Coming for Little Kim in that way, you know, fuck you. Like, she already has like terrible self-esteem at that time. And you're like, fuck you, you so fucking ugly. When that's not even true. And that's not good rhyming skills. You know what I'm saying? That's like the playground acting like a bitch ass blah blah blah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like that. I don't like that's not what the studio is for. Like, right. You know what I mean? So that was my problem. But before any of like the jail and all that stuff happened to him, I'm talking about like Tupac that was in Juice, that was with Digital Underground, like that. Yeah. I loved that Tupac. Absolutely. Once he shaved his head bald, it's like he shaved his mind off a little bit. So like I wasn't really with it.
Oh, man.
And the tattoo, the thug life. I was like, what you trying to do to all the young kids in the neighborhood? Like, fucking thug life? After you were like this, like, black nationalist, Black Panther or whatever, now you come in with the thug life and the gang shit? Like, I'm just like, whoa. Sound like a Manchurian Candidate to me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it would be a stretch to say he might have been a little bipolar.
Yeah. Yeah. There was definitely issues going on there.
But yeah, we don't have to get more into that. It's all sad. The main thing I think to think about is just the legacy of Biggie and just what he means to the culture, what he means to Brooklyn, just rap music in general, and to just keep the legacy alive, you know?
Yeah, it's a shame that you can you have to bring up like him when you bring up him. Like now it's becoming like Nicki and Cardi, right? Like nobody can bring up Cardi without saying Nicki and stuff like that. It's like one of those things.
Yeah,
but
they'll always be linked now.
Yeah,
because
always.
of their deaths. They'll always be talked about together
because of that. Yeah, and it was funny. Yeah. I mean, and I still blame Tupac. I love you, rest in peace. But I still blame you because it's like he linked Biggie in. Like, you know what I mean? Ain't that my style? And people wasn't even thinking like, no, I don't think it's your style at all. Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, shout out to Big, and then he's got he's got kids, but his kids don't really make music like that. I know my brother saw his daughter at some event, and his son too. Like, you know, they still honor their pop, which is great. But
they're Big Poppa.
We'll always love Big Poppa. There'll never be another one like that, and then you just see how influential he was because of the rhyme skills. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just watched how people change. You know, Diddy needed a new ghostwriter. You know, couldn't use. He had to call Jada.
Yeah, so I don't know. Is there anything else we should really say about Biggie before we sign off?
No. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Big and Junior Mafia and everybody who made like the late 90s. Super great. Super interesting. Super colorful. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this episode. Shout out to Biggie. Shout out to all of you for watching. If you enjoy the podcast, definitely tell your friends about it. It's probably the biggest thing you could do to help us out. If you think you know someone that would enjoy, definitely, you know, show them this. Subscribe to the Patreon if you want to, you know, help us to continue doing this. Once we get to 100 or so, we'll make polls so you can tell us like exclusive episodes that you want us to do just for the Patreon. Yeah, we're Side After Dark. I think that's about it.
And this is Music Maniacs.
We'll see you next time.
I'd give anything to not hear you.